It starts as an ordinary evening on Interstate 40 in northern Arizona. Deputy Sanchez glances at the radar, a sedan cruising slightly above the speed limit near Sun Valley Road. It's routine, just another traffic stop. But as he pulls alongside and flips on the lights, something about the passenger window catches his attention. A figure hunched under a blanket, struggling to hide. That's when this stop pivots from mundane to urgent in a heartbeat. Deputy Sanchez approaches the driver, 32-year-old Raul Alexis-Arellano-Romero. He's nervous, fumbling with his registration and muttering about a friend from Las Vegas. She's 19, he claims, voice shaky. But the deputy notices fake tattoos on the passenger's arm, tattoos that look sketched, almost painted on. It doesn't add up. That small detail shifts the entire scene. This isn't a DUI, it's a possible kidnapping. As backup arrives, the atmosphere tightens. The deputy gently asks, "Can she tell us her name?" The figure pulls back the blanket, revealing a terrified 13-year-old girl. Moments later, she whispers her real name, and suddenly everything makes sense. She's missing from Albertville, Alabama, taken nearly 2 weeks ago. The relief on the officers' faces is tinged with shock and resolve. Understanding they just pulled off more than a traffic stop, they just ended a nightmare for this child. The girl steps out, trembling but unharmed. Deputies wrap her in a thermal blanket and offer warm water while they call Alabama police to coordinate her return. She clutches a stuffed toy they handed her, an unexpected comfort in a terrifying moment. Arellano-Romero is placed in handcuffs. His face is calm now, too calm. Eyes empty. The deputies don't know it yet, but this suspect had already been arrested once for taking her from her legal guardians in Massachusetts. And now he's driven across states to do it again. Inside the cruiser, the girl answers basic questions. Age, school, family, but the weight of what she went through hangs in the air. No bruises, no signs of physical abuse, just exhaustion and fear. The deputies exchange looks. It's a successful rescue, but what if things had been different? A single officer's attention to detail changed everything. Back at the Navajo County station, detectives comb through Arellano-Romero's belongings, maps, burner phones, a suitcase packed with multiple sets of clothes. His calm facade unravels when confronted with video footage of the girl's disappearance. He confesses to driving from New Mexico into Arizona, claiming he was just taking her away from danger. The detectives press him on his prior arrest. Why did he repeat the crime? He says he doesn't remember that. His story drifts between confusion and justification. Meanwhile, social workers work carefully with the girl. She's given hot food, medical checks, and a soft bed to sleep in for the first time in days. Later, she's reunited with her mother over a video call. A difficult smile through tears, but a family reconnected. Officers watch quietly, knowing this little reunion is the calm after a storm they helped stop. News of the rescue hits the media the next day. Local and Alabama outlets spread the story. A routine traffic stop leading to the recovery of a missing child. Headlines praised the deputies. This was no ordinary stop, it was instinct, training and compassion, meeting opportunity. Bond is set at $100,000, and officials begin working on extradition so the child can safely return home. Chief Deputy Ramirez holds a press conference. This case shows our deputies don't just enforce laws, they save lives. One detail, fake tattoos made all the difference. Behind him, photos of the girl's relief, the suspect's arrest, and deputies at the scene flash across the screen. The public breathes easier knowing she's safe. In the days that follow, the girl goes home, enters counseling, and slowly resumes school with full support. Deputies remain in touch, checking in quietly to see how she's healing. Arellano-Romero remains in jail, awaiting trial in Alabama. Investigators uncover evidence of grooming, phone logs, search histories about child abduction, and messages laced with manipulation. Faces once friendly now appear sinister in hindsight. The story makes waves in law enforcement circles. This incident becomes a training video on Q Alert, highlighting how small observations, tattoos, demeanor, blanket can save lives. 911 dispatchers listen together, analyzing radio calls to improve future responses. Deputies discuss it at roll call. This is the kind of routine that matters. Months later, on a quiet patrol, Deputy Sanchez spots a sedan matching the suspect's model. His pulse quickens, but he remembers the last stop. Trust what you see, question everything. He lets the car pass, confident the girl is safe, and that the system worked. This case reveals how vigilance and compassion can intersect at the right moment. A 13-year-old girl, hidden under a blanket, was found not because of a heroic chase, but due to a deputy's keen eye on a quiet stretch of highway. It's a reminder that danger can hide in plain sight, but so can hope. After the initial relief of the rescue, the gravity of what nearly happened began to set in. The girl, whose name we will not reveal for privacy reasons, had been gone for nearly 2 weeks. Her face printed on flyers, posted across social media, and circulated by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Her disappearance had sparked fear and outrage in her Alabama hometown, with her mother going on local news begging for answers. No one had imagined that a simple patrol officer 2 states away would be the one to find her. In the days following the rescue, investigators from multiple jurisdictions, Arizona, New Mexico, Alabama, and even federal agencies, joined hands to piece together Arellano-Romero's movements. His journey stretched across nearly 1,200 miles. Surveillance footage from gas stations, rest stops, and motels slowly painted a haunting picture. In one frame, the girl is seen following him into a roadside diner in New Mexico, eyes cast downward, arms folded tightly. In another, she walks alone behind him through a dark motel parking lot, looking over her shoulder. Detectives analyzing his digital devices found chilling conversations, direct messages to multiple minors, posing as someone closer to their age. The pattern was undeniable. He would build trust, exploit vulnerability, and then strike. In this case, he had met the girl online pretending to be a teenage boy. Over time, the manipulation grew darker. He convinced her that her parents didn't love her, that he was the only one who understood her, and that she needed to escape. And eventually, when she ran away, he was waiting. What made this case even more disturbing was that he had already been caught once, months earlier in Massachusetts, for harboring the same girl. At that time, she had claimed she went with him willingly, and he was released on bond, while awaiting trial. But after he vanished, and so did she, the dots connected too late. This second abduction turned what was once seen as a runaway case into something far more dangerous. Psychologists who evaluated the girl after her recovery noted signs of coercive control, trauma bonding, and grooming. She didn't speak of him as a villain, at least not at first. In fact, in some sessions, she defended him. She said things like, "He protected me, and he told me my mom would make me get rid of him." These were classic symptoms of emotional manipulation, the kind that leaves deeper scars than physical harm. At school, her return was both welcomed and delicate. A counselor was assigned to help with the transition, but whispers followed her in the hallways. Some classmates were supportive, others cruel. Rumors spread quickly, stories exaggerated, twisted. She stopped showing up after the second week, and was placed on a remote learning plan, shielded from the social storm she had unwillingly walked into. Her mother, meanwhile, struggled with guilt. "I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know how bad," she confessed to investigators. She blamed herself for not checking her daughter's phone, for not catching the red flags. Arellano-Romero, now behind bars in Alabama, refused to speak during questioning. His attorney entered a plea of not guilty, but the evidence was overwhelming. GPS records, receipts, footage, messages, and then came the nail in the coffin: dashcam footage from the Arizona traffic stop, showing the moment he lied to deputies, moments before the truth unraveled. That clip, paired with the girl's testimony and psychological evaluations, formed the backbone of the prosecution's case. The judge denied bail. "This is not just about a child in danger," he said. "This is about a predator who knew exactly what he was doing, and would have continued had he not been caught." Across Arizona and Alabama, parents watched this case unfold and asked the same question: how many more are out there? How many times do we write off missing kids as runaways, never asking who lured them and how? This case wasn't an exception, it was a wake-up call. For the Navajo County Sheriff's Office, this wasn't just another line in their record books. It was a living reminder that law enforcement isn't always about chasing criminals. Sometimes it's about spotting the subtle, the strange, the slightly off, and acting on it. A routine stop, a fake tattoo, a silent passenger, and one sharp deputy who didn't look the other way. Even after the media moved on, the story stuck with everyone involved. For Deputy Sanchez, it was the reason he kept showing up for night shift. Not for the recognition, not for the paycheck, but because of what could happen if he didn't. The girl's mother later sent him a handwritten letter. "You didn't just stop a car that night, you saved my daughter's life. You saved mine too." In the weeks that followed, the story slowly faded from headlines, but for the people involved, especially the young girl, life was only just beginning to shift back into something close to normal. Therapy became a daily part of her routine. Her voice, once quiet and guarded, started returning. At first it was just a few words, then sentences, then laughter. Her mother enrolled her in art therapy after noticing how often she doodled during sessions. She drew wolves, mostly lonely ones, hiding behind trees, but in one picture, a wolf was howling, surrounded by stars. When asked why, she simply said, "Because she's not afraid anymore." Meanwhile, prosecutors in Alabama worked relentlessly to ensure that Raul Alexis-Romero never had another chance to repeat what he did. In a pre-trial hearing, new evidence was introduced: hard drives filled with disturbing search history, chat logs involving other underage girls, and grooming tactics spanning months. Federal charges were added, including interstate kidnapping and exploitation of a minor. His lawyer attempted to argue mental instability, claiming he believed he was rescuing the girl, but the court saw through it. His actions were deliberate, calculated, and dangerous. Before the trial even began, he entered a plea deal, guilty on multiple charges, including aggravated kidnapping and transportation of a minor. The sentence was swift: 55 years in federal prison with no parole. The judge's final words echoed through the courtroom: "You hunted innocence, you stole peace, and now you lose your freedom." The girl did not attend the sentencing. She had chosen, instead, to attend her first school field trip since returning home, a quiet day at a nature park, collecting leaves and taking photos of butterflies. Her mother said later, that was the real victory, not the sentence, but seeing her smile again without fear. As months turned into a year, her story quietly became part of law enforcement case studies across the country. The body cam footage, the dash cam video, the 911 log logs, they were all anonymized and used in training materials. But what stood out most wasn't the technology or tactics, it was intuition. It was one deputy noticing something odd, slowing down and not brushing it off. It was that quiet moment of something isn't right that changed everything. Deputy Sanchez received a commendation that year, though he accepted it quietly. He didn't like interviews or spotlights. When asked why he thought this case stood out, he replied, "Because it could have been missed. Easily. If I hadn't looked twice, she might have disappeared for good. That's what haunts me. And that's what drives me." In a small corner of his desk drawer, he keeps a photo the girl's mother sent. It's the girl standing in a sunflower field, arms stretched out, smiling free, safe, and full of life. On the back it simply says, "You gave her back her tomorrow. Thank you." Even now, whenever he makes a stop, checks a car, or talks to someone who looks nervous, he remembers that night, that trembling girl in the blanket, the fake tattoos, the way she tried to disappear, and he listens, every time, closely. Because not every hero wears a cape. Sometimes they wear a badge, carry a flashlight, and notice what others miss. And sometimes, it only takes a single moment, a second glance to save an entire life. After Arellano-Romero's sentencing, the courtroom emptied quietly. No cheers, no applause, just the heavy silence of justice served too late. For many of the officers involved, the sense of triumph was complicated. While they had saved the girl, the truth was she never should have been in that car in the first place. And that question kept echoing: how many others were out there, just one fake tattoo away from vanishing forever? Back in Alabama, the community that had once blanketed their neighborhoods with missing person flyers held a candlelight vigil, not just to celebrate the girl's safe return, but to acknowledge the quiet horror of what almost happened. Her school counselor spoke at the event, his voice cracking as he said this wasn't a fairy tale ending, but it's a second chance, and those are rare. The girl began writing short poems in her journal, something her therapist encouraged. Many were about feeling like a ghost in her own life, how she'd disappear in plain sight, and how sometimes it felt safer to stay hidden. But one poem stood out. It was titled "The Blink That Saved Me." In it she described the moment the patrol lights flashed behind the car and how for a second she thought it was over, that she'd be hurt, blamed, misunderstood. But then she wrote, "He looked at me, not through me, and that's how I knew I was seen again." That line hit hard for every officer who read it. Over time, her healing wasn't linear. There were setbacks, panic attacks in crowded stores, sudden distrust of anyone with dark sunglasses, nightmares that wouldn't let her sleep more than 2 hours at a time. But her resilience grew. She started painting at first abstract swirls of gray and blue, later warm reds and soft yellows. Each color shift marked a milestone. The day she laughed with a new friend, the morning she walked home from school without looking back, the afternoon she threw away the blanket she had hidden under. Her mother, too, carried guilt like a weight around her neck. She attended trauma support groups, where other parents sat in silent solidarity. Some had lost children forever. Others had children who returned but never spoke again. But she found hope in her daughter's progress. She stopped blaming herself the day her daughter left a note taped to the fridge. It said, "You didn't fail me. He tricked both of us, but we're still here, and we're stronger." One of the FBI agents, who had joined the multi-state investigation, said in a private debriefing, "We were lucky, the traffic stop. That was a miracle in uniform." But the agent also warned, "We can't keep relying on luck. We need prevention, not just rescue." As a result, new policies were implemented across school districts, urging teachers and counselors to take online grooming more seriously. Tech tools were introduced to flag suspicious conversations and alert parents if certain phrases were used, like "don't tell, we're secret," or "your family won't understand." Arellano-Romero's case went on to become a cautionary tale in both law enforcement and parental forums. His tactics were studied, dissected, and discussed across seminars and training centers. But what chilled investigators most wasn't his cleverness, it was his patience. He waited months before convincing the girl to leave. Grooming wasn't fast, it was methodical, manipulative, and subtle, and that made it even more dangerous. In a later interview with a social worker, the girl admitted something no one had expected. She said she had called her mom from a gas station bathroom, just 2 days before the Arizona traffic stop. "I didn't know what to say," she confessed. "I just said I was okay, but I wanted her to know where I was." That phone call, brief and panicked, had alerted her mother that something was very wrong. She reported the call, which narrowed the search radius. It was that intel that was quietly relayed to law enforcement across bordering states, and why Deputy Sanchez had been on alert that night, watching cars more carefully than usual. It wasn't luck, it was teamwork, technology, instinct, and a little bit of hope left in a young girl who still believed someone might find her. As for the deputy, his life moved on, but never the same. He began speaking at schools, community centers, and youth events, not about guns or arrests, but about observation, empathy, and listening. He taught teens how to recognize grooming behavior, and he taught parents how to check in with their kids without pushing them away. In one event, he said, "You don't need to kick down a door to save someone. Sometimes it's enough to stop the car, look, and ask the right question." The girl, now nearly 15, has started journaling publicly. Under an anonymous name, she shares her journey, not her trauma, but her healing. Her blog is called Found Again. In one post she writes, "They say I was rescued at a traffic stop, but really, I started saving myself the day I realized his voice wasn't the only one I had to believe." That's the lesson no one teaches you. Survival isn't loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's a whisper in the dark. A glance in the rearview mirror, a flashlight beam that doesn't turn away, a deputy who notices the fear behind a fake smile, and a girl who still had the strength to hope, even while hiding under a blanket in the back seat. This wasn't just a traffic stop. It was the intersection of awareness, courage, and grace. And it's the reason one more child is alive today, laughing, healing, and finally free.